Stay tuned. Up next on Forward Focus, we're going to learn about some of the co-curricular opportunities our students participate in here in Anne Arundel County Public Schools. Hello, and welcome to Forward Focus, an AACPS program where we focus on our work to create a school system where everyone can belong, grow, and succeed. I'm Shannon Pugh, the Director of Strategic Initiatives, and joining us today is a project specialist for college and career readiness, Ms. Nicole Dennis, and Dr. Corey Perella, who supervises our co-curricular programs as well as many other things here in Anne Arundel County Public Schools. So thank you so much to both of you for joining us today.
It's great to be here. Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, so our focus today is going to be really on our student programming, mainly about co-curriculars, not always. But before we do that, I want an opportunity for you both to introduce yourselves to our audience and let them know about your professional journey and how you ended up in Anne Arundel County Public Schools. So, Nicole, if you want to get started.
Sure. So, my professional journey that has led me here has been a little bit of an interesting one. I spent the bulk of my career in North Carolina, where I went from being a teacher to a program coordinator and then a school administrator. I also spent a couple of years in Virginia working in central office at Falls Church, and then my husband took a new position that relocated us to Annapolis, and so I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. We're happy to have you as well. So, Dr. Perella, you also have had a very interesting background.
I have. I also have had some out-of-district experiences. I started off my career in higher education. I worked at Wake Forest University and the University of Memphis. And then I was teaching in Georgia, so I had a chance to teach middle school and elementary school in Georgia, and then came to Anne Arundel County Public Schools. I've had several different positions and opportunities within the county, and I've been in my current work and role for the last 4 years.
Awesome. So our focus today, as already mentioned, is about student programming opportunities through co-curricular. So we fund our programs in a variety of different ways, both through local funds, some state funding, but also some federal funding. So I thought we would actually start with what we call Title IV, which is a federal grant program. And so Ms. Dennis, if you'll take us through just a little bit of what is Title IV.
Sure. So Title IV is one component of what we call ESSA, but is the Every Student Succeeds Act. And Title IV specifically focuses on 3 areas. And those areas are well-rounded educational opportunities for students, safe and healthy students, and then, of course, the effective use in technology for teaching and learning. So it really is very broad and wide. It encompasses all the things that we, appreciate about learning in AACPS.
So can you give us some examples of how some of those things transition to actually specific things for our students?
Sure. So we have a lot of programs that have been funded through Title IV that have been with us for a substantial amount of time. And Corey is the one who manages many of those programs. And really our co-curricular and extracurricular opportunities are enriched through Title IV, specifically things like robotics and Future Makers and Stock Market Club. And these things have been able to, of course, develop, but then also expand through the use of Title IV funds.
So let's compare that a little bit to some of the work that Corey does with maybe some of those local funds. How do we see some connections?
Sure, absolutely. So one of the opportunities that we have with our Title IV funds and then our local funds is that we can expand the reach to offer to more students to improve the access for the opportunities. An example of that would be through the robotics options that Nicole had been mentioning. Robotics can be a very expensive endeavor, whether it's purchasing equipment or registration fees or transportation, as our students are competition ready and moving up through the ranks of some of our programs. So what we've been able to do is utilize those funds to purchase the subscriptions, purchase the equipment, really outfit our high schools. All of our high schools have access to these funds, to provide some stipend opportunities for teachers, because this beyond school hours commitment is sometimes extraordinary in the commitment of time. So it's able to provide stipending opportunities for teachers, and it really is just about providing more access and more opportunities. And now we see almost every single high school has a competition-ready robotics team, other than just starting off with some of our brand new ones. So they're going to be onboarding here in the next year as well.
right, let's talk about robotics for
Mhm.
just a second and how we support that. So is that just at the high school level? How do we support those programs?
No, interestingly enough, so we've taken Title IV funds very specifically to prepare funding options for our high schools, but we also have this K-12 pipeline. So I'll mention VEX Robotics as one of our examples that we've built out the entire ecosystem of VEX across our elementary, middle, and our high schools. We've been able to purchase items like Sphera Robotics, which are really accessible for our younger learners and provide classroom sets that are available. We house them often in the media center. So sometimes teachers are surprised to hear about that. They go, oh, I do have access to these materials. So yes, that's just one of the pieces, but it's elementary, middle, and high school.
Uh-huh.
Our federal fundings do have a very specific focus on providing access to ensure that our high school programs can expand a robotics option, though. REVEX is not all of them, though. We have really 4 core robotics programs. One would be MESA, which is math, engineering, science achievement. We partner with our adjunct program over at Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab, just one of our really strongholds of robotics. We have about 27 schools right now that have a MESA program. CPERCH is another. CPERCH, we partner with the RoboNation and then the Naval Academy. And we have 36 elementary schools alone, and then 17 of our secondary programs create remotely operated underwater vehicles with the CPERCH program. Those kits, again, not to always talk about expense, but those are very expensive kits. And so when we have the ability to use local funds and federal funds, more and more students can participate in that.
So it sounds like a great opportunity to braid some of those different
Absolutely.
efforts that we have. Going back to Title IV, are there other, just heard a little bit about specifically at the high school levels written into the Title IV grant. Are there other things that are very, very specific like that are written into the grant that we can somewhat support, but we wouldn't be able to without the grant?
Sure. So Title IV, much like the other title grants that we have, are meant to supplement what we provide for students and for schools. So what we can't do is what they call supplant or replace and use Title IV funding for things that are required by law or things that we pay for out of local funds. So they're things that extend what we have to provide for all students. And the goal is really that it is needs-based and targeted. And so this year, there's been a strong focus to really focus on underrepresented communities and students who may not have had historical access to these things, and as a result we've seen some new and emerging activities arise, and those are beyond co-curricular. We have a lot of curricular support that's happening. For example, we are going to be putting a barbering shop in at Phoenix Academy, so one of our alternative education centers, to make sure that those students have real world relevant and engaging curriculum available to them. We also are supporting the work of College and Career Readiness. Our elementary counseling staff is using a tool called Zello to prep students for career readiness before they hit middle school and begin working with our career coaches. We also run a college camp that's run for many years at Annapolis High School for students who would be first generation college students, to make sure that they have the tools that they need in order to, not just graduate, but then go on and be successful, whether it be through enrolling in college or going into the workforce.
So that sounds like it's definitely far more than just co-curriculars. We're touching our students in so many different ways with all of their different opportunities. So some of those things are obviously happening during the day. So do most of our co-curriculars happen in the after school, summer?
For the majority. So we have this beyond school hours time, which provides us an opportunity not just connected directly to the school day, but also virtually in the evening. Title IV funds are another one of those examples that provided some materials of instruction for us to increase access. For families that may have some transportation issues, for whatever reason that may be, children can't stay after school. There's no transportation provided. So we've provided all 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders an opportunity to register for virtual STEM clubs. It's just one of the examples. And that occurs seasonally, usually occurs in the winter seasons, and we host those from 6 to 8 p.m. We have a large cadre of teachers who support that. Students love that because they actually connect to other students across the entire district. It's not just their classmates or their schoolmates. So it's a district-wide program, and we actually reserve a set number of seats. So every single elementary school, every parent that's in grades 3 through 5 is invited to register for that program. So that's just one other alternative that is beyond school hours, but not necessarily connected to the school day to provide access.
I love that, and I just happen to know someone who does teach in that particular program in the evenings for that. So when what types of things are they doing though in that type of program?
Yeah, so it's an interactive, dynamic, STEM-based experience, and it's considered a compact club time. It's in 4 sessions. Students get to move through 4 separate, distinct STEM activities. They have an AACPS teacher. These are all hosted by our teachers who are going through professional development with us, and then a great business partner that we have who supplies those kits. So every student has the same 4 activity pathway through that, and it just complements what's happening in the school day. It also is an ideal opportunity for us to build enthusiasm for what those concepts are that they're learning in the classroom, because we know this interactive, dynamic, highly engaging activity after school transfers that enthusiasm back to their learning in the classroom.
And what have we heard from our parents who have their students who are online, and sometimes that's like a bad word after COVID, but we've been able to take the best of it.
Interesting enough, we just surveyed our families, and we had about 400 parents that responded to a survey on their experiences. We surveyed them each of their years. Overwhelmingly, they appreciate the opportunity for their children to participate in these activities. Often, many of them do say, because it does not compete with other things that we have or commitments of our family or any type of constraints that our family may be experiencing. We also love that the children are doing this in our space, so we see what's happening and we see them and are able to then share their enthusiasm. And one of the things that we survey them on also is, has this increased any interest or dialogue about STEM-centered activities or STEM-centered learning? And they say yes. They said that the children are regularly talking about the activities with them. They're also better able to kind of question some of the curiosities that they themselves have with those experiences. So overwhelmingly, they really appreciate that. Those surveys have also then led us to utilize some new funding for next year. We'll be promoting a literacy and financial literacy program for our families, just to expand on some of our arts and humanities opportunities that will be in the same format, which is that model being very successful in our opinion, and then offer another option for families.
Any family input as we work on Title IV? Feedback from families who are their kids are benefiting from this great federal source of funding?
Yeah, so one of the processes that we have to go through again is that needs assessment, and so that's really getting feedback from everyone. So it's students, it's parents, it's school leadership, it's divisional leadership here to really triangulate that information to make determinations about where we go with Title IV funding, making sure that we want to stay innovative, making sure that the work is aligned directly with the strategic plan. And I'd like to think Title IV is basically like the title of the strategic plan. It's really supporting that academic excellence, the future readiness piece. So it's very.
All right. Well, that brings us to our break. We're going to come back and talk a little bit more about student programming and our connection to our strategic plan. So please stay tuned.
Okay, that was perfect.
All right, so welcome back. I want to take up where we left off. And so we were talking about co-curriculars, and we spent a lot of time talking about our great robotics type of programs. What other co-curriculars do we have that our students are participating in?
Absolutely. There's so many that we can showcase and celebrate. One, because of the partnerships that it brings us with the industry, partnerships within our community, partnerships within our universities. One perhaps that is not well known yet, but is our ACE program, and our ACE is Architecture, Construction, and Engineering. It happens at the high schools. We have 4 high schools that are participating right now, and it's partnering with an organization called ACE actually, and they provide mentorships. They work on a design challenge. This year it's a really exciting design challenge. It was a Kent Narrows revitalization project for the shopping center that is not currently active. It hasn't been sold. It's under a revitalization project. So we worked in partnership with Queen Anne County, and Anne Arundel County and this organization that's called ACE. And students are working on a design challenge for that. Then they're going to actually present that off, their scholarship opportunities. And then we have a tremendous option with the community college that we have an ACE Skills Trades Day. They bring in industry partners, they bring in job hiring opportunities. It's really fantastic. And so that's one that is somewhat new to us in our partnership. But we're going to continue to grow that out. Another is the stock market game. We work with Towson University and the Maryland Council on Economic Education, and students are working in a simulation opportunity. They have $100,000 that they're going to be investing.
Not a real $100,000 in a
But it's a real simulation. It's really it's the working mechanics of actual the stock market. We had a national award winner at elementary school for an Invest Right program that happened. That was I don't want to misname the elementary school, but that was really exciting for us. So stock market game is another one that promotes all kinds of opportunities and interest-based activities for students. And then I think the third one we would talk about that's fairly new is our esports program. So every high school received equipment to launch an esports program this past year. So that's an emerging experience for us. So just a few.
Those are awesome. If anyone's not familiar with the term design challenge, do you want to define that for our audience real quick?
Yeah, so the design challenge is that students are provided this community problem. And so it can be an environmental problem, it can be an architectural problem, an engineering problem. And with this challenge, they were actually to revitalize a space that's not currently in use, but it is prime real estate on the water in Queen Anne County. And Queen Anne County had actually sent out an all call saying, we're interested in ideas. And our students then have launched into that, and they're going to be presenting those ideas, and who knows what they'll be doing with it. But it's a great opportunity for real-world application for students to take their learning and make a contribution, and you never know what can happen with the ideas that they pitch.
Wow, that sounds really exciting.
It is.
So we're a little over halfway through the school year, and so thinking about the programs, or whether they be specifically for students or some of the other programs that Title IV is able to support, what's your favorite so far this year? And wow us with it. So tell us something.
So I think my favorite so far is really emerging work, and it's something that we're all anticipating, looking forward to. And I mentioned it before our break, but it's really that barbering shop that we're going to be able to put in at Phoenix Academy. I just think that it'll provide so many potential opportunities for students and open doors and open their worldview to something that they can do beyond high school. And I am excited to see how that goes, and then to see what other types of opportunities that we can provide students. You know, we've done a lot historically with co-curriculars, but also with that curricular support. Another one that has been really exciting for us with our elementary school students is leveraging some use of technology. MEG Languages is something that all of our PYP schools are using, and it is real-time synchronous language development virtually with a native speaker in whatever target language it is that those students are studying. And so seeing our students have that global worldview come into their classroom and to see it in action has been very neat as well.
I'm glad you mentioned that. So I have a little bit of a bias because I'm a humanities arts girl, so I love STEM, love the technology, but the opportunities for our kids to make those connections, whether they're through languages or other pieces as well, of really that whole child experience that they have. How about you? What's your favorite so far this year?
That is such a difficult question because we have so many various programs, and the breadth of our outreach to the schools is really broad. I think I'll just lean into maybe talking about the online book club for a moment. So our online book club is another opportunity for students across the entire district. It's promoted that any family that has an interest receives grades 3, 4, and 5 can register their children for those programs. And that's a program where the students have a chance to just dive into literature together and really explore and discover and socialize and enjoy each other's company under the guidance of a teacher. So that would be one, but if I could just name a second, it would be our competition readiness teams. We have really grown our teams out, and again, it is a robotics experience, but it's not just that engineering piece. What's fantastic about the robotics programs is all of the other auxiliary components and needs. They need team managers, they need marketers, they need writers, they need project managers, they need all of these roles to participate, whether you have the robot interest or all of the other elements. And so we're seeing teams expand, and that's been an awesome option.
I love that. Kids will be able to see that I don't necessarily have to be the engineer. There are plenty of other jobs or things I can do to support that type of work that match my interests.
Absolutely. I'll just say, if you were to go to any of our tech companies, it's not just the technology, it's all of the other surrounding needs that are career focused.
So let's talk about planning for the future. So we are in what we fondly like to call budget season here, with as far as the district goes. But I want to talk a little bit about how you go about planning for the various programs next year. So as we think about as we think about Title IV for next year, how do we go about planning? Because this isn't something they do in 5 minutes. This is 12, 18 months out. People are planning with what they would like to do for next year. So talk us through that.
So again, it's really founded in need and justifying how we can achieve some tangible goals within the grant cycle and make sure that we're moving the needle towards reaching whatever those goals are. The other part of it is really trying to make sure that we are staying true to the intent of Title IV. And so again, we've done so much work with that well-rounded curriculum piece in regard to supporting co-curriculars and curriculars. And I'm really excited to see the work that will be emerging for us in regard to safe students in schools as well. Our student services folks are passionate about their work, and they really are putting a lot of thought into some work that they're going to do with Title IV funds this spring in order to better meet the needs of our students and buildings. One example is we are getting ready to engage counselors and school psychologists and some training to better support students who are experiencing anxiety. We have a interdisciplinary project, if you will, going on with some environmental learning and therapy as well, nature-informed therapy, with some outdoor classroom spaces that will be expanding. So really thinking, again, you mentioned whole child, and that's really the intent of the grant. And so making sure that we are meeting the needs of the students that we serve is key.
And I know you made a lot of effort to make sure all that is aligned to our new strategic plan.
Yes.
With that work.
Yeah.
So how about co-curriculars? Any changes with the plans for next year? Any other alignments with the strategic plan? I see a lot of alignment.
Well, with our commitment to Belong, Grow, Succeed, we are always identifying opportunities of student interest to provide programs. Lee Catterton, our academic specialist, is regularly working with the schools to identify needs, interests, and then develop and establish some new programs. We're really committed to making sure that we have internships and mentorship opportunities, that our students are future ready, that they are engaged in experiences that can have that enthusiasm transferred back to what's happening in the school day. We're looking at adjunct partnerships, so students have an opportunity to leave our property, our schools, and go on site and site-based experiences. So those are some of our kind of the tenets for program selection, and we always stay with this idea of choice, voice, and access. So students have lots of choices. They have access to programs. So looking at the way in which we deploy programs so that we have a variety of options. And then making sure that students have a voice. And that really happens often, where we're looking for what might they want, what might we want to promote. It's how esports was launched in the schools. So those are some of the tenets that we really rely on, which are always, we find, inherently beneficial, that comes from Belong, Grow, Succeed.
Can you elaborate a little bit on whether it's what we do through Title IV or through co-curriculars, and I know some of it is certainly overlapped. When we talk about academic achievement of students, we can make those external connections, we can do all that, but what are we seeing when students, whether it's through an evening program, whether it's through some of the opportunities like those career connections, how is that impacting our kids within their within their regular classrooms, their core academics or other pieces? What have we seen?
Well, I think that what Title IV activities, including the co-curriculars, really allows us to do is it's a test bed essentially for innovation, right? We're able to trial initiatives and trial the use of new and emerging technologies in a classroom setting, measure progress, measure the data, and then make determinations if whether or not they're effective. And if they are, then we scale it up, and it's become something that we adopt in a more holistic manner. And if not, we realize before we're too invested in anything that maybe this is not what will really meet the needs of students, and getting that feedback from them, from their families, from what instructional data tells us to drive where we go next. And so it really provides us the opportunity to be creative and critical thinkers.
I think what we see is the why in the after school time. So it's what are we learning? How are we learning it? And then we have a direct application for how and the why and what are we doing with it. And students love the hands-on nature of what they're experiencing, and they transfer that knowledge to that after school space, and there's often that aha for them where there's that powerful learning moment where the pieces all are connecting, and then they own it. They know they're learning, and then they become a learning leader.
So, talking about funding again, don't need to always talk about funding, but we know right now there's certainly some energy within the federal government, regardless of what we think about it. But as far as really looking at programs and grants and other things that the federal government funds to determine where there could be some cost savings or that. But we have a little bit of an audience. What would you say as far as if anybody asked you, is Title IV something that we should be spending our federal education dollars on? What would you say?
I think that Title IV is crucial to us being able to create an environment where all students can fulfill that portrait of a graduate, right? So it's beyond just the academic excellence component. It's being an effective collaborator. It's being engaged in the community. And those elements happen for all of our kids through the initiatives that we are able to provide and fund through Title IV.
Excellent. So co-curriculars, for the most part, are funded through local funds, but our viewers are certainly taxpayers. So what would you say to them about the investment that our taxpayer dollars are?
Absolutely. I really couldn't say much better than what Nicole has said. But what I would say is that it has provided further opportunities to allow all to participate, to provide that access point for all. So not just do we have only high school programs? No. Do we only have middle school, high school programs? No. We have K through 12 programs now. So we have opportunities for the littles, the middles, and the bigs, we would say. So everybody has a place, not just with STEM, arts and humanities also. So it's really crucial for us to have funding options for transportation, funding options for materials of instruction, so we can continue to deploy these high quality experiences for students and to have these engaged options for them.
And as you were talking, I was really thinking about there are so many things that, although the average viewer doesn't really, tear it apart like this, but there are so many things that just need both the local, the state, and the federal funds to really benefit our kids. And when you take out even one of those, it really causes some negative impact on the education of our students.
There's tremendous benefit from grant opportunities for us. It allows this innovative option for testbed, for trying out some new programs, and then to seek local funds for us to continue to maintain some of those programs as well. But yeah, absolutely crucial for our work.
Right. Well, thank you so much. So this brings us to the end of our time today. So once again, I would like to thank our guests, Dr. Perella and Ms. Dennis, for joining us. Another great example of great work happening in AACPS as we work to ensure that all AACPS students can belong, grow, and succeed. Join us next time on Forward Focus.